Hello, my name is Daniel Buenaflor, and you're listening to Behind the Veil. Today, I'd like to talk about Urbex, or urban exploration. Urban exploration is the exploration of man-made structures, and they're usually abandoned or forbidden from the public eye. There are a bunch of names for it, like draining, which is specific to drain exploration. There's infiltration, urban spelunking, building hacking. One of the more interesting ones comes from Japan. It's called Haikyo, which literally means abandoned place. The reason why the Japanese have their own unique name for it is because there are so many abandoned structures there, and urbex is something of a common hobby over there. Urbex is often also associated with ghost hunting due to the age of most buildings that they say are haunted. They're usually abandoned. Urban exploration often involves dangerous conditions, and it can even involve trespassing, but the intention of the explorers is almost always innocent. One of the unofficial mottos of Urbex is take nothing but photographs, leave nothing but footprints. Urbex attracts historians, photographers, etc., and it brings them to places such as abandoned buildings, catacombs, sewers, and storm drains, and various transit and utility tunnels. However, abandoned buildings are some of the most seeked out locations, and these are 5 of the most interesting abandoned structures worth exploring. Number 5, North Brother Island in New York. North Brother Island is one of many islands near New York that are now uninhabited. The island was completely uninhabited until it was purchased by the city in 1885 in order to turn it into a quarantine center for those with extremely contagious diseases, such as typhus, tuberculosis, and smallpox. The island's most famous resident was Typhoid Mary Malone, who stayed there for 20 years until her death in 1938. North Brother Island was home to New York's worst loss of life until the events of 9/11. In 1905, the General Slocum steamship caught fire near the island and over 1,000 people lost their lives. It was reopened after World War II to house war veterans and later on heroin addicts. It has been closed and abandoned since 1963 and has been closed off to the public because it's now a bird sanctuary for one of the area's largest nesting colonies of black-crowned night herons. Number 4, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium will be a familiar name to those who appreciate ghost hunting. This abandoned Kentucky sanatorium is widely regarded as one of the most haunted locations in the U.S. and has been featured in many ghost hunting television shows. The sanatorium opened for business on July 26, 1910, and accommodated 40 to 50 tuberculosis patients. Over time, it grew to accommodate over 400 patients and even had its own zip code. When a cure for tuberculosis was found in 1961, the sanatorium closed down. It was reopened as a geriatric hospital called Woodhaven Medical, only to be closed down about 20 years later by the state in 1981. The owners of the site, who are working actively on restoring it, offer tours of the property, if you're feeling brave enough to explore it, that is. Number 3, Nara Dreamland, Japan. Nara Dreamland was Japan's answer to the U.S.'s Disneyland in 1961. It had similar themes and even featured its own main street. This theme park, however, was not as successful as its American counterpart and was closed down in 2006 due to a low level of visitors. 400,000 a year, to be exact. That is an extremely small number compared to the millions of visitors Disneyland gets every year. Now, Nara Dreamland stands empty as nature slowly takes it back, but the park still seems to have power. It's much too risky and expensive to turn anything back on for any real purpose, though. Guards still patrol the property, giving fines to people caught exploring the area. There are no plans at the moment to take down this failed theme park. Following the theme of theme parks is number 2, Spreepark, Germany. This enchanting, strange, and fantasy-filled dinosaur theme park in Berlin, Germany, was created by the communist East German government in 1969. The park went through a few owners, and so the park remains as an odd mix of many different themes and rides. The park's last owner was involved in criminal activity, and that's partly the reason why the park was closed in 2002, in addition to low visitor numbers. The park was even featured in the climax of the artsy action film Hannah by Joe Wright. The park features life-size dinosaurs and an old roller coaster that goes through an animal's mouth. The intention of the park's creation was never clear, and it changed every so often, but it remains a beautiful and odd place nonetheless. Since 2009, the park has offered tours, but unfortunately, the park caught fire in August 2014, completely burning down the fake Western-style town that rested within it. It is suspected to be arson, and time will tell if this favorite of Urbexers will stand the test of time. Finally, and possibly the granddaddy of all abandoned locations, is number 1, Pripyat, Ukraine, or Chernobyl. Chernobyl was always considered a beautiful and fortuitous city, and in the Soviet era, the city was considered a vacation spot and also housed many of the workers of the nearby nuclear power plant. However, on April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 at the power plant exploded, killing 2 workers instantly, while the rest of Pripyat slept. It wasn't until 40 hours later that the residents of the city were promptly evacuated. Most never even returned. Some stayed and never left. It was too late at that point, however, as many had already experienced varying levels of radiation poisoning. The fallout of the disaster is still affecting countries all over the world. The city itself, however, is thriving, with many species of animals making the city their own, despite the radiation. The Ukrainian government now allows tours of the decaying city. The exclusion zone is a popular site amongst urbexers. It is home to an amusement park that was set to open just before the accident happened. It'll never fulfill its goal of making hundreds of children smile, and will instead slowly decay as nature claims the city for itself. The solemn beauty and tragedy of the city has been an inspiration to many artists and storytellers, as it has been featured in many video games and movies. Many firefighters gave their lives trying to contain the disaster, and in fact are still working to contain it today. Workers are housed farther away, and they take a train to the city to contain the radiation coming from the power plant. They are limited in their time there, and the time they can spend near the city, and even that is not enough to prevent them from suffering radiation poisoning. Over time, the radiation will dissipate, but the city will forever serve as a reminder of that horrible tragedy on April 1986. Anyway, that's today's show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.